Welcome to the latest edition of the NNA podcast. We talk all things comics, games, anime, movies, whatever. My name is Nikhail, this is my white friend Ayrton, and this is my not so white friend Marcus. This episode is going to be about all things Soul Calibur, in particular Soul Calibur 6, the latest edition of the series. What is Soul Calibur, you ask? It's a long-running 3D fighting game series. If I was to sum it up in one sentence, it's basically Tekken with weapons. Every character has a unique weapon, katanas, nunchucks, ninja blades, whatever. One question we're going to try to answer is whether this will be the last Soul Calibur game. To be honest, this has been a recurrent theme ever since Soul Calibur 4, which was released in 2008. And this is something that's coming from Namco themselves. Apparently the series has been struggling with sales as of the last decade, and every Soul Calibur game released is set to be the last Soul Calibur game. So we'll try and figure out whether this has done well. It's been early days, it only came out I believe a month ago. And yeah, we'll try to answer whether we believe this is the last Soul Calibur or not. So guys, Soul Calibur, we've all played the game, what do you think of it?
I think it's great. I feel like it looks very nice. It's very pretty to look at. The soundtrack is amazing. They've at least attempted things in terms of like tutorials and things for newer players. They've also got these little character sort of parts where they tell you sort of like little strategies on how to play certain characters to get you started. I think that's very good. And yeah, it moves fairly well. It's a little bit hit and miss online, but you kind of expect that. For the most part, it's pretty good, and I hope it does well. And I've also only played one character right now, which is Taki, because she's a goddess.
So I got the game a little bit after these guys. I've only dabbled a little bit. It's fine. It's fun to hit people with stuff. It's nice to have characters I recognised. I played 2 and 4 for a little bit.
It's a nice little game. I've played Soul Calibur pretty much all my life. I've had every single main series game. I'm a big fan of the story, the characters, the scenery, the music. Marcus mentioned this game just tries to help you out with tutorials, but they are very text heavy. It's a lot of reading, basically. When you play through story mode, there's a lot of reading, and that may not sit so well with people with less patience. For story mode, I don't mind because I love the story as it is. For someone who just picked up Soul Calibur, that might bother him so well. A big thing with Soul Calibur, which is probably its USP at this point, is custom characters. In a lot of fighting games, you can customize existing characters, but Soul Calibur allows you to create your own characters completely. When Soul Calibur 6 came out, a lot of videos were flooding the internet with people creating characters from other games like Link from Legend of Zelda or Mario or Spider-Man, just outrageous stuff, loads of anime stuff. That's not really what I'm into, but I do see a lot of that. Marcus, what about you?
Definitely, I've seen a lot of it. It's brilliant. It brings people to the game. There's a crap ton of creativity that I never would have thought of. Some of the things that people have created is just crazy. It's a fantastic idea.
The craziest thing I've seen is that someone created Magic Carp.
Really?
The Pokemon Magic Carp. And Magic Carp a fish.
Yeah.
And like you can only really create humanoid characters. So the person who done that it's very, very smart, and he had a lot of time in his hands. Basically how it worked was you have the character Voldo, and he's a weird fucking guy. You can Google him. He has a stance where he goes on all fours. It's like a mantis crawl kind of thing. So basically, he's dressed Voldo up in like the colors of Magic Carp, and then when he goes on all fours, he has this move where he can kind of jump while on all fours, and his arms kind of flap about as if his fins are flapping, and then he proper looks like Magic Carp. You can YouTube it. It's quite funny to see. Are there any crazy characters you've seen?
The next downloadable character is a character called 2B from a game called Nier Automata. What I find quite funny is that a lot of people have already created her in the character creation screen. So like her model's almost basically there. They've done a really good job with it. And then of course I've spoke to Nikhail a little while ago about the giant cube that got created as well.
Someone literally made a giant cube. I don't know how you do these things. Literally, I went on like create a character mode and I started to do what I normally do. I tried to create myself and I tried to make him black. Couldn't do it. By default, he was white and you had like all the colors of the rainbow, like red, yellow, green, blue, indigo. And yeah, there's no brown there. So I thought, fuck this. And I didn't look back. But some people really do have time in their hands. I don't know how you make a cube.
No idea. I've just seen it, and people they're like, "This thing needs to be banned. You can't even hit the fucking thing." Going back on your point, Nikhail, I'm also a bit like yourself. I remember being 3 years old and playing a different game called Streets of Rage, and the black character was called Adam. So I played Adam purely because he's a black man. Upon doing that, trying to create my character, trying to create a black man, run into the same problem. I found that really funny because the game actually has a black character in it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, it must be possible.
It must be possible. How the fuck do you do this?
And I have seen someone made Balrog, so it is possible, but this ain't really my kind of thing. I just want to play the game, play the
Yeah,
stories.
me too. I need to get over my ranked anxiety though, because that's an issue that I've had for a bit now, and it's annoying me because I want to get into that side of the game.
So these days, fighting games have a lot of guest characters.
Ooh,
This started off with Soul Calibur. Yeah, so Soul Calibur was the first game that had like third-party guest characters, like not just characters from a different franchise from the same company, like just a completely random guest character. It started for Soul Calibur 2, and it's pretty much been the trend for almost every Soul Calibur game since. The guest character for this game, or the first one, is I can't. How do you say his name, Eton?
Geralt.
From The Witcher. What do you think of that? I think he fits, has been better than the Star Wars characters they picked. I understand why they did it, but Soul Calibur set in the 16th century, they really didn't fit. So The Witcher is a game or story I know nothing about, but he fits in pretty well, and I do like his moveset. What do you guys think?
I'm with you on the front that is a much better fit than say Yoda from Soul Calibur 4, because they also did something like that with Tekken 3 when they introduced a character called Gon, who comes from manga, and the hitbox was too small for every character to actually hit.
Gon was in Tekken 3. That's sick. I love Gon.
And there's a lot of Tekken fans asking for Gone Back. All of you can fuck off because that is just stupid. Yoda in Soul Calibur 4. He's too small. You can't hit him. He breaks the game.
Well, yeah, man. And like, I haven't played Near Automata, so I'm very interested to see what 2B ends up looking like. From what I can understand, shit materializes, kind of like Noctis from Tekken 7. I like Geralt, but because I was a Soul Calibur fan in the first place, I kind of feel like it wasn't really meant for me because I already have my characters from the Soul Calibur world that I actually wanted to play.
I mean, I'm the same as you. I play Soul Calibur to play Soul Calibur characters. I mean, I understand why they do guest characters, but I rarely play them. For big fans of The Witcher, they may buy this game just because that guy's in it. I'm sure, like, Star Wars fans bought Soul Calibur 4 purely because Star Wars characters are in it. So I fully understand it.
I mean, I like both characters. 2B and Geralt are both good characters. Though 2B didn't quite fit quite as well as Geralt does. But I saw even like a cool intro. Like Geralt was meditating, and then Nightmare was there, and Geralt's like, my medallion is reacting. So he, as a Witcher, his medallion reacts to like evil shit, basically. So that was dope, just to see that in like the Soul Calibur universe.
I also like the way Geralt uses his two different swords because I haven't played The Witcher, but my understanding is he has two different swords, one for humans, one for demons, and they've kind of incorporated that into Soul Calibur 6 as well, which I thought was really cool. I thought maybe fans would appreciate that as well. I don't know. Do they, Eton?
Are you a big Witcher fan, Eton? I just remember you mentioned it at some point.
I'm a big fan of The Witcher 3. I played the first game. The first game is much more like it's kind of like the old classic adventure games more, and it's really dated now. Second game is pretty alright. It's like standard RPG, but third was like insanely good.
I never heard of this series before The Witcher 3.
Yeah, The Witcher 3 took it to a different level. That was like a GTA 3 of the series, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, because the people who designed the game, they actually did like an hour-long sort of video about the game, and when they got onto the subject of Geralt, first of all, the battle designer was a massive Witcher fan, and he wanted to incorporate things like his two swords and things that make him unique. And I just thought it's really cool the way they've done that.
Overall, do you think Soul Calibur 6 is a good enough game
Yes.
for the Soul Calibur series to continue? So a lot of people didn't like Soul Calibur 5.
What did people like Soul Calibur 5? It seemed pretty cool when I was reading about it.
Well, the reason being, I mean, I think it's a good game overall. If you ask me, it's not a bad game. It's a fucking beautiful game. I think I love the graphics of Soul Calibur 4 and 5. The big problem is, like I said, I'm a big fan of the story, but it was starting to get stale. So there was a 17-year time skip, meaning a lot of popular characters were not in the game. Taki was not in the game. Sophitia was not in the game. Talon was not in the game.
Killick was not in the game.
Keelik was... Keelik was in the game, but he wasn't the same Keelik. He had a completely different moveset, and this pissed off a lot of people. Changhua was in the game. I can go on. A lot of popular characters weren't in the game, and the new characters weren't so well received. If you ask me, that is the main reason as to why Soul Calibur 5 gets a bad rep. And to overcome that, Soul Calibur 6, story wise, they've gone back to Soul Calibur 1 and just basically retold that. So everyone's favorite characters have returned. But because of the negative feedback of Soul Calibur 5, people were wondering whether that was the last Soul Calibur or not. And Namco, the people who make Soul Calibur, they got Tekken on their hands. They have the licenses to Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece. So you have all these cool anime games coming out, which all are much more profitable. You got Dragon Ball Z Fighters, which was a great success. You have the game Jump Force coming out. Soul Calibur is pretty much like at the bottom of the radar. And a lot of people think, well, Namco might not even bother with this anymore. And this is kind of something Namco say themselves. I remember the producers saying before the game come out, if Soul Calibur 6 doesn't sell so much, this may be the last one. But then again, they've been saying it for the last 10 years, so who knows? That's why I'm asking Marcus in particular if you think the game's good enough for the series to continue.
I'm going to take that one as a no from Marcus there. He's just, the silence is resounding, Jesus.
I feel like Metal Gear Solid when the guy's like, Snake.
Snake! Snake!
Am I here?
It's a miracle, hallelujah.
We can hear you now.
So
You just blanked me on live TV. What the fuck?
I heard you though. I heard you.
I don't appreciate that.
Nicole, you know you're my little brother, man. Come on.
Nah, fuck you, man. I'm bigger than you as it is.
Yeah. So no, I think Soul Calibur 6 is a fantastic game. It's very well made. It's very well thought through, and once you do get to grips with it, it is very fun.
But do you think it will do enough?
No, and here's why. As you said, Nikhail, it's been selling less and less over time, and also there hasn't been much in the way of promotion for the game
Agreed.
outside of your normal like fighting game circles. And that circle is not very big to begin with in like when you compare it to the rest of gaming. So unless people like yourself and myself and all of them suddenly come back to gaming and pick up that game, I don't see it. It depends on what Namco consider to be good enough, but I don't see it doing big numbers like Dragon Ball Fighters has.
No chance.
Not at all. And I think a lot of that is less to do with the game itself and more to do with the lack of promotion. But at the same time, I understand why there's a lack of promotion.
They have announced DLC for the game,
Mm-hmm.
but I think after that, put it this way, I struggle to find matches on ranked already,
Yeah.
and the game's been out, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah.
I have a much easier time finding ranked matches on Tekken, a game that's been out a year and a half.
Yeah.
That tells me two things. One, it's a very casual-centric game. I think a lot of people bought this for the customization of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And to play this game competitively is a niche.
Mm-hmm.
Second point, it's just not that popular overall, probably. Because after 2 weeks,
Yeah.
it's not dead, but there are times when it actually is dead, and that alone is an issue. Or they make a Soul Calibur 7, I don't think you'll see it for a long, long time. The gap between Soul Calibur 5 and 6 was like, 4-5 years? I could be wrong. I think it might be something similar, if at all.
6 years. It's 6 years.
Yeah, there you go. I think it could be something similar. We could have another virtual fighter on our hands.
Whoa, well, easy now, Nikhail. Oh man, no, I don't think it's going to be doing any bits at all, and that's sad because it is a very good game. And like you said, if people aren't in ranked already after 3 weeks, well then fuck me, because that's bad. To give you an example, Street Fighter 5 had a terrible release. It's now been out for 2 years. You can still go online and find matches easily. So that's not a good look for a fighting game, especially considering it's a genre where most of the fun comes from you pitting your wits against a human opponent.
I looked at the stats a bit, but it's really hard to tell how well it's doing. It seems like they're selling a lot less physical copies than 5, about half as much. They pushed a lot of the stock they do have, and obviously physical copies are going down in sales, so it's hard to say how well 6 is actually doing, really.
I was looking for information on that myself, and I couldn't find anything other than physical copies. But the articles I did find said that physical copy sales were going down across the board for all games. So, yeah, I don't know what to take from that other than it can't be good.
It is what it is. So, lads, who is your favorite Soul Calibur character and why?
Oh, this is so easy.
We talking about story wise, or we talking about like gameplay wise?
Just who's your favorite character for whatever reason?
Raphael, because like he's a rich nobleman in Europe, and I just empathise with that for some reason.
But what's the one defense with that?
Honestly, no, but the thing is, I agree with that. When I think of Raphael, I think Ayrton. When I think Ayrton, I think Raphael. They're one in the same. Posh twats.
Fucking racism. What I like about Raphael is I just liked his moveset, and he caught me with two and just stuck with me. I didn't like the whole vampire turn he took, but now it's been rebooted. It's a little bit undone for the moment. Yeah, I just like the way he fights as well. I like positioning and like being able to zone someone out with the rapier. Yeah, I really like that. So I think second place is Maxley, who's just like standard scrub person. Who's
That
fun
is
to
man
use.
on road, but that is not true. It's funny, a lot of people say that online that Maxi's beginner friendly. That couldn't be further from the truth. To play him properly, it's incredibly, incredibly difficult. He has a lot of stances and he's constantly switching through these stances and yeah.
True. How about you, Marcus?
For me, it's easy. It's the Demon Slayer Ninja, Taki. So, when you pick a character and you're pressing buttons and everything just kind of fits, it just feels good to play that character. I got that with her when I was like 11 playing Soul Calibur 1. And I'm a bit of a loyalist, so I kind of stuck with her ever since. And she's still got it. But also, I like the fact that she's able to just put you under immense pressure. If you're someone who likes to really press buttons and really put pressure on people, she's the character to pick. She's also the only character in Soul Calibur 5 that does damage on block to her opponent.
So basically, what Marcus is saying is he likes Taki because she has nice tits.
There's that too. But mainly, she's a ninja, and I've always liked ninjas. I'm a fan of Naruto. I used to watch them 80s ninja movies and stuff like that. She's got all these really cool moves, cool looking moves, and she puts you under a lot of pressure. Attacks you a lot on block and stuff. And her attitude is pretty decent. So yeah, I like most of the characters in Soul Calibur actually.
I think Soul Calibur has a really good roster overall.
Mm.
I find in a lot of fighting games, there's so many characters that I just don't like. Mainly the female characters. But I think 90% of Soul Calibur's roster is pretty good. And they all have well thought out backstories, and I like how these characters interact with one another at certain parts throughout the story.
How about you, Nikki? Your favorite?
My favorite character is Maxi because he's the baddest man on road.
Is he on a road? I thought he was a pirate. Surely baddest man on sea.
Well, okay, yeah, you're right.
You think his skin looks like Elvis?
Yes,
It's just like, what the fuck is this? Why is this Elvis here?
He thought of Elvis before Elvis.
he's Elvis in the 16th century. Cha!
Cha-cha-cha. Who's your guys' least favorite characters?
Least favorite.
Talent. What's she doing here?
Who?
Look for the 9-year-old, and that's her. She's very small. Again, she looks like she's 9. She has bladed tonfas. She debuted in Soul Calibur 2. I believe she's Filipino. She has some wind powers, which is pretty interesting, I guess. But I'd probably say her. Other than there's some shitty bonus characters they put in sometimes. I think Inferno is a pretty crap boss. Nightmare's the shit. Nightmare's the main antagonist of the series. Nightmare is gangster. Inferno is crap.
Batty Crease, yeah. What do you think of Aswell?
That's another thing. I'm not so fond of these new characters. So we mentioned the guest characters, but there's 2 new characters. As was one of them, and the other one is
Bro.
And Gro just looks like, I don't know, basic anime character 37. So generic.
Do you know what I find really funny about Aswell? I feel like they looked at G from Street Fighter 5 and lifted his personality onto Aswell and then thought, shit, we have to actually make this different. I was going to have a problem. What else can we do? He's got the same backstory as G, pretty much. I don't know how to feel about him so far. My most hated character probably is Ivy. Even then, I don't necessarily dislike her. I've just never liked playing against her because my character has to get in close, and Ivy's got this whip sword thing that stretches across the whole flipping stage.
When I was a kid, I was reading a review on Soul Calibur 2, and they compared Ivy's makeup choices to Pat Butcher.
I think you're going to tell him who Pat Butcher
Pat
is.
Butcher, just Google image Pat Butcher. If you don't know who it is. It's a character of a show called EastEnders, which is very big in Britain. My most hated character is probably Astroff. I feel like he lacks some personality. I know it's supposed to be Max's rival and stuff, but I'm not feeling like enamored with his.
I got to disagree with that last part, but I don't think you've played Soul Calibur 6's story mode. Going through it, Astroff is one of the main villains, and there are times where he is more dislikable than Nightmare, who is the main antagonist. Like, Nightmare, he's killing all these people, but he has a clear goal in mind of what he wants to do. Essentially, he wants to save his father, but he's going about it the wrong way. Astroff wants to kill just for the sake of killing. His personality really comes out because you have the evil guys in one team, Nightmare, Ivy, and Astroff. The other two are killing out of necessity, but Astroff is killing just for the sake of killing. He enjoys it, and you can hear it in his voice. He's absolutely loving it to the point where the other two are disgusted by his actions. So, yeah, he's definitely got personality. Well, my next question is because Soul Calibur has a lot of beautiful girls. A lot of them don't wear a lot of clothes either. But who do you think is the sexiest character in Soul Calibur, and why is it Volvo?
Uh, oh god. Well, it's tacky because
Yeah, but Volvo's ass though. That pale
Mate.
stuff. You see me?
What a sexy guy.
if I end up seeing that, I know I have truly failed in the match I just
I
played.
think Volvo's a very fascinating character because when I was younger in my spare time, I used to like make up my own fighting game characters, and I would never be able to even think of a character like Volvo in a million years.
Yeah. He's so annoying to say he's my worst. But then he's such a unique character, it's hard to begrudge him.
I do. I mean, I can see where some of the inspiration for him comes from. Very little bit. It's only because I know a bit about some Italian legend that he's based on. But that's just his backstory. I mean, his moveset is ridiculous. Who thinks
Very
of this
inventive,
shit?
very unique.
Definitely.
Do you think he'll win in a fight against Wolverine?
No, Wolverine has a healing factor.
Agreed, but I think Voldo's a better fighter. I just think Wolverine has more durability.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Wolverine's not the best fighter in the world.
Is Voldo actually alive, though?
Wow.
Yeah, what do you mean?
I mean, is he technically meant to be bound to a certain treasure or something to protect it? He's technically like a zombie.
So Voldo's story is he's his loyal servant to this guy. I think his name is Vietzi. I probably mispronounced it. He was this rich as fuck merchant who died, and he took all his wealth and put it in this underground pit on some island in I think Sicily. And he locked Voldo there underground, just locked him up in the pit. And Voldo was there underground for years and years and years. He became blind and batshit crazy, and that's what we have today.
Wow.
So even though his master's dead, he still serves him. I don't know if he thinks he's alive, but he just basically hears voices in his head and just follows his dead master's wishes.
Damn. So that's the character of all the schizophrenics out there, yeah?
Someone they can relate to. Maybe they dress like him as well. I don't know.
Damn.
Do you guys not hear voices in your head? Is that not a thing we do?
No. Well, sometimes.
Not one telling me to kill people.
I mean, not always.
I had a voice in my head earlier telling me if I should go buy some mango juice.
That's the voice of Audrey.
I will say, I think one of my favorite things about Soul Calibur, and especially Soul Calibur 6, is that while I'm not an expert, the play styles of the different characters are so well defined that you kind of feel like you know what you have to do to win a matchup. It's whether you can do it, you know? Using an example, Ivy again. Ivy, her best thing is to keep you at long distance, to keep you far away. Taki has to get in. She has to get in. And there's loads of different things that she can do once she gets in. But she only has one move to get in, so you have to use that clever to get in the first place. And I do like that, because there are other fighting games where they say that they're different characters, but really they're basically clones. Street Fighter!
Dan Hikibi, Ken Masters, and Ryu are all slightly similar.
I mean, they're not exactly the same now. If you get to a certain level, yeah, there are certain things you need to play them one compared to the other. But it's not as clear and easy to see as it is in Soul Calibur.
I think that's a good point you made. I think adding on to that, like the weapons really do make it. They make it more kind of interesting. They make the like footsie battle kind of more interesting, and the sidestepping is easier to do as well because the vertical horizontal attack mode. So it makes It feels a little more like boxing, a little less like a fight.
Mm.
I mean, adding on to what Edson said, I don't think there's ever been a fighting game series that feels as 3D as Soul Calibur. I mean, it's infamous for its 8-way run. You can literally run in any direction so freely, so fast as well.
The closest game to that is the Dead or Alive series. That is the closest game in terms of the freedom of movement.
I actually don't agree with that Dead or Alive point.
Really?
What about?
Maybe just because I haven't played it in a long time.
Yeah, it's because you haven't played it in a long time. It's literally the same. You can hold the direction up or down, and they literally just walk around just like Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur moves a bit faster, but that freedom of movement is definitely there. I wouldn't be surprised if Soul Calibur players also play Dead or Alive, because there are some similarities there. There's a block button, there's the movement, but they might be put off by character designs or the mechanic where you can like get out of things while you're being hit, like in Dead or Alive.
I remember hearing about an article that people were complaining that games like Soul Calibur promotes women with unrealistic figures and shit. How they're just, so sexualized and, this is bad because girls have to live up to this impossible standard. And yeah, that was a big thing about that.
Killick's shirtless.
And someone said the point, well, look at Voldo. His arm hanging out. How sexualized can you be? Man wears a thong.
Not only that, even if we go to a lesser extent, all the men have muscles, all of them have six packs, most of them are over 5'10. So they talk about impossible standards, but the only thing is the women are actually fit. They're not massively tall and shit. The guys we have to deal with, some of them are like Astaroth, 6'9". I can't grow to 6'9".
I don't think anyone's trying to be Astroff, in all fairness.
No, but you see my
Kill
point.
it, baby. Astroff,
All right.
and
Maxi.
yeah, sure. But Astroff, not so much.
All right then. I come Maxi with his fucking incredibly flexible.
I'm
legs.
agreeing with you.
Even Siegfried is just like ridiculous.
I got a body like Maxi anyway, don't matter.
I mean, your skin tone isn't even in the game, Nikal. It doesn't count.
I said body like. Shut the fuck up.
I was waiting for Ayrton to say that because I felt it coming. I have a question for Ayrton. As someone who doesn't really play fighting games very much, you seem to be part of a demographic that all the developers seem to want to appeal to. How do you think they might be able to do that?
I'll just say that is a fantastic question.
Kind of like asking a fish how to catch a fish, though. You know, you ask a fisherman because it's like I can say what I might like to see, but
No, that's the question.
What would you like to see?
like I'll be honest. For me, I don't think many people necessarily feel like this, but I feel like the stories in fighting games are often quite boring. Especially the like RPG mode in the game. It's just like there's a lot of reading. It doesn't involve me. I feel like if the story just took me and ran with me, I would be like hooked on it. But as it is, it's like you kind of get plonked into this big world, and without investment already being there, it's kind of like, oh, I don't care about this guy who is voiced by Corey Marshall or whatever. It's not for me. I feel like if the story was really solid, then I'd be much more into it. That being said, the story in this has been praised by a lot of Soul Calibur fans.
Yeah.
I'm talking about taking a different level, like the kind of level that's in like a really solid game like Uncharted.
Yeah, or like Persona 5 or something.
Yeah, where it's like on that higher level. But I'm not sure other casual fans would like that, or that's even what they're going for. Because I mean, fighting games is by nature kind of multiplayer orientated.
Yeah. Ironically, I do think a lot of people are with you on that one. I think a game that Nakal is not fond of at all, and a franchise that I think is okay but is well overblown, is Mortal Kombat. And one of the reasons that sells very well is because it's known for its one-player storylines and what they do with it and how it's far better than what fighting games normally pump out. I honestly do believe that's the only reason it's... Well, that and the gore are the only reasons that franchise ever sells.
The only reason why it sells is because there was blood back in the day, and that's what people want to see. It's a shit game.
See? Do you hear the hatred, Ayrton? Do you hear it?
You know what? I've actually played through the last two Mortal Kombat stories. They were pretty entertaining. I played through them. I'm not massively invested in the universe, but I was...
Well, seriousness, Ayrton made the point before, which is kind of what I said before. In the context of Soul Calibur, yes. If you're not already invested in the story, then it's not really appealing. Like I said, there's a lot of text to read, and someone who's just picked up the game, yeah, it's not going to really be about it. credit where credit is due, Mortal Kombat, in comparison to Soul Calibur, does a better job in that regard. However, to Ayrton's point, to be more immersed in the story, I just think this is the wrong genre, which he probably
Mm.
agrees with.
Mm.
Like you mentioned Uncharted, that's just a much better genre to have, that kind of immersive storyline, or like a Shenmue or
Hmm.
something like that. For fighting game, is not the genre for it.
Do you think then that developers should stop trying so hard to appeal to a demographic that is never going to really give it a chance anyway?
Well, ultimately, no. I mean, obviously, you want to get a new audience in. You need to make money on these games, so you obviously should always be trying to bring in new players. I'm not faulting that.
Hmm.
A big ass story mode isn't necessarily the way to do it, because to be honest, what Ayrton said is probably going to only appeal to people who are already fans of the story,
Yeah.
and that's just a big time and effort for nothing.
Mm.
I.e., a lot of people say what would help virtual fighting become more popular is story mode. Virtual Fighter fans don't really care for it, and no one's gonna buy Virtual Fighter 6 suddenly gonna be interested in the story.
Hmm.
So I think that's a big waste of time. I think there are other ways to do it. This
I
isn't
think
the way.
building on that, like one thing, strangely, in FIFA 19 they introduced there's always like an exhibition kickoff mode.
Yeah.
They introduced like handicaps to it and like different variants on it, almost like a much more intentional version of that Mortal Kombat mode where there's like a little slot machine that chooses different things.
Yeah.
So like you could start a game and it would just be 5-0 up to the person who's better. A big factor for me, at least, that dissuades me from being more invested in fighting games is going online. You just face someone like Nikhail, who well not the best player in the world,
Hmm.
like compared to me is far better,
Hmm.
and just takes shit on me online, and that's really discouraging. And a lot of casual fans know this. Like it's people make jokes about it and stuff. So having a handicap built in, where like someone who's better can play someone who's worse with a handicap, and if you win, you'll be like, oh, I beat this guy who was like plat, even though I'm bronze or whatever. That'd be nice. That'd be like a nice way to bridge that gap. I think that's a big part of the problem.
I agree.
It's an interesting one, but I would hate that
I would
personally.
hate it too. I agree, but I would say that while it's not perfect, if you jump in on a fighting game in the beginning and that game is relatively popular, you usually find people that are at your same level as you that literally don't know how to play the game, and you'll get wins. I promise you, you'll get wins.
I mean, but yeah, you'll get wins, but to a certain point,
Yeah,
because then you'll get to a rank where people ain't fucking around anymore,
yeah, exactly.
and then what he says will become true.
Hmm.
He will start getting his ass handed to him, and then he'll get discouraged.
Hmm.
Or it'll be a few weeks after it's released. There's no one online anymore.
Which is what's happened with Soul Calibur 6, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, that depends on the game. I think we should go back to the question. Do you think this will be the last Soul Calibur? Maybe just a simple yes or no.
No, but I do think it will be like another 10 years or something before we see another one.
I'd say 5.
I say it's definitely not going to be the last one because the brand will be worth money, and if it's released in a mobile game.
Yeah,
But
that
I think it'll be a while before the next one as well.
with like Namco, they've got Tekken, they got Dragon Ball Z, they got Naruto, they got this Jump Force thing coming along. These all have higher priority over Soul Calibur, so yeah, it is what it is. Maybe not the last game, but the last game for a while.
I do think that they might try to make a Soul Calibur game that is of a different genre.
They tried that Soul Calibur Legends, and that was a flop. And honestly, I disagree with that strongly. I don't think they would know how to do it. They would have to
What?
get an external team to do it. They would have to give them a decent budget for it to work. And
Hmm.
I imagine Soul Calibur 6 was made on a smaller budget. Hell, Tekken 7 was made on a smaller budget. I think it was 4 times smaller than Tekken 5. And that's Tekken, their main baby. I really don't see that happening.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, they have done 3 Project X zones, but that they did get help with from Capcom and other
That's a
companies.
different game
So
entirely. At most, you see Soul Calibur characters there, but that's not a new Soul Calibur. That's a different thing.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think we're all on the same page. It's going to be a long time before we see another one. Sadly, because it is very good.
Why did Tekken 7 have like a fourth the budget of Tekken 5? Is that just because the money's coming out of the fighting game genre?
No, I think it's. I don't think it's the fighting game genre. I think it's the video game genre in Japan. I think recessions and shit like that, just the general market. Japan lost a lot of power to the West. Now Western developers are a lot bigger, whereas back in the day, all the strongholds used to be in Japan. I think that has an element to it. This is just what I read. I don't really know, but I know Tekken 6 had a much lower budget, but Tekken 6 has sold like hotcake. Sorry, Tekken 7. Tekken 7 has sold like hotcakes. So
Also, a lot of their money does come from the arcade release, and the arcades, even in Japan, have been dying out a bit. I mean, they're still there, but it's not the same as it once was. So I think that's it.
Alright guys, thanks for listening to us today talking about Soul Calibur 6, answering the question, is this the last Soul Calibur? Answer seems to be no, but last one for a while, certainly. That's the consensus here. If you listen to this in 10 years' time and we're wrong, we're glad to hear it. Don't worry about it. We're out on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes as well. If you want to listen to us, we also release small clips on YouTube as well. In case there's any little moment you want to share with a friend, it really helps us out a lot, so we really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed listening to us, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Bye.
cheers, safe, bye.
Later.